What if thriving wasn't about getting life perfect?
but learning to find peace and purpose right in the mess.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Tom, and we walked away from the version of life that looked right to build one that feels alive.
We'll talk about the beauty and the struggle, from parenting and marriage to faith, well-being and travel.
This is The Whole of Us.
Just going to launch straight into it, yeah? Well, today we decided we would go back and sort of flesh out one of our earlier conversations.
Yeah, look, it's funny. We've had a bit of feedback from a couple of stories that we told on a previous episode on world schooling about some of the interactions that we had with people that really surprised us.
So I take little clippets from what we're saying from the podcast and put them on socials, and one of them this week went a little nutso. So many people, I think I had like over 600 shares a couple days later.
Really struck a chord.
Really struck a chord. I was really surprised. It was a good story, but the big thing I believe people were resonating with was this anxiety that mothers have when they go out with their children.
Okay, so just let's go back to that story. What actually happened?
We were on a cruise ship and we overheard someone say, I booked these cruises outside of school holidays so I don't have to deal with children.
Yeah, basically, I can't believe there are kids on this boat with me.
So offensive, as in for them that we had kids. How dare we?
Oh, no.
And some of the comments, I mean, a lot of the comments on socials have been super positive, but sharing their own traumatic experiences of people questioning why they even were having children, just making things pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, really uncomfortable. And very, very quick to judge how someone is parenting, how a kid's behavior is, judging what they're seeing based off a snippet of interaction.
It's quite interesting because we've had this incredible opportunity to live amongst different cultures across the world. The piece that resonated with us was how different it was from these cultures and communities around the world when you stepped back into America or Australia or like these Western cultures, how intolerant they were of children. And so there was a lot of beautiful comments and it was, great discussion and processing through. And there was also a couple of pretty real comments. There were people who have chosen not to have children, saying that they do enjoy children but feel really overstimulated by them and prefer to go to places. Look, I personally don't mind if a hotel or one of the comments was people being offended that other people have, that there are boundaries on when you can take your children to things or not. I don't mind. In fact, that's almost better to me because that brings a lot of clarity. Okay, kids are not welcome here, no problem. And I get it. Sometimes you want to go away and just have your own.
Totally. Well, I mean, we get overwhelmed by kids at times.
For sure. And so I don't think that's a problem. What was interesting, so I'll read some of the comments. You either had this extreme of completely blaming the parents. So, in other cultures, children are taught to be polite, or
we tolerate bad children. We don't tolerate bad parenting.
Right. Kids are swear word without supervision.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have kids, you don't want to be around them. So this was the extreme of a lot of blame language.
Yeah.
A lot of judgmental language. These are totally fine to have these comments come through, by the way. Wasn't offended by them. It was just really interesting to see a different side.
On the flip side of that as well, you had people saying, I'm never apologizing for my kids. They can be in any situation, any circumstance. And this kind of like, I'm going to force my kids on you and just suck it up.
Well, I think it was probably speaking to the deep core belief that children are supposed to be seen and not heard that we've carried through from generations before us.
Yeah.
And the remnants sort of rising up against it and being like, no, my children will be seen and they will be heard. And I think there's a middle ground.
I think so, because those two attitudes of we don't tolerate kids or you have to tolerate my kids are the two extremes of the spectrum there. And I think one of the really warming things of a lot of the comments was this: how do we actually step into community and culture in a way that embraces children, but also teaches them how to be a part of community and culture, like teaches them to be members of a multi-generational society. It's not that we can ever expect people to just accept our behavior But it's,
Yeah.
how do we adjust for everyone around us without abandoning ourselves?
I think that comment of, because if you don't have kids, you don't want them around. I want to say it struck a chord in me. I didn't quite know how to respond to that one because I think more and more people are choosing not to have children
Yeah.
now, and that is their decision to make.
I mean, statistically, birth rates have fallen massively over the last 100 years.
And if you are having children, you're having less. We both come from bigger families than what we've had. There are many reasons for that, and this is not the episode we're going into a lot of that, but yes, so I think it could possibly be entirely ridiculous that if you choose not to have children, you won't be affected by kids or that you won't be around kids.
You should have an expectation that you will have a kid-free life.
That's not possible.
It's kind of a joke. It's like walking into a supermarket and saying, I'm a vegan, so there should be no meat here. Or I'm a carnivore, so there should be no vegetables here.
And to be fair, we had a lot of comments from people who have chosen not to have kids, and they were so beautiful in their reply. They were saying, well, look, I'm choosing not to have children, but I love seeing children around and, you know.
The joy of it. And sometimes I struggle with the overwhelm of it and trying to find a balance.
And I was like, me too, sister. Me too with the overwhelm. But this then leads to a more serious issue of we have become so individualized and so lacking in a community atmosphere or a community.
Yeah, we're so intolerant of others' views or others'
I don't know if it's
choices.
I don't even know if it's like intolerant of views. Yes, obviously that's part of it. I just think we don't know how to do life together anymore.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, we have decided that our life will be better if we can be so self-sufficient that we don't need anybody else. And the research is abundantly clear that is not true.
And look, I mean, we've done multiple episodes now on kind of community and self-focused versus communal-focused life and relationships. And we keep coming back to it because it's so key.
I don't want it to be key. Can I just say that? I really would. I think I would rather just have.
It certainly feels easier in many senses because life feels complex. A lot cleaner and controllable.
Yeah.
And maybe that's actually the deeper thing. We want control.
Right.
We want such a deep-rooted sense of control that anything that threatens that, we push away because it's scary.
Having kids felt out of control to me.
Well, it is at times.
Having kids meant I could not be selfish or as selfish as I had been anymore. It would have been easier in some ways to never have had children. We would have had more money. We could have done what we wanted when we wanted to do. It would have felt like the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
The flip side of that is a billion other reasons why having children has been the best decision of our life.
Absolutely.
And it is 100%.
Yes.
But it wasn't without cost or sacrifice.
No.
It isn't without cost and sacrifice.
So, okay. So then does that speak to a greater inability to deal with discomfort or to deal with putting aside what I want for the sake of someone or something else?
I think it speaks to massive protectors that we as individuals have.
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. I think we come from, and we've gone round and round about this as well, like why in the West or Western cultures, you know, English speaking, whatever, is there this huge emphasis on emotional health? We spend so long unpacking our trauma and unpacking our deep protectors and, you know, what makes us who we are. I think part of the problem is we're not in community. Our parents weren't in communities.
Yeah.
Our grandparents might have been. It was a very different time.
Yes.
And I don't know whether it was also the still seen and not heard generation as well.
Yep.
And so even though you had community around, was it as raw and honest and vulnerable and necessary, like you see me, I see you type of community? I don't know that it was.
Yeah.
And we see that you can have two different experiences, one extremely traumatic and the other not great, but maybe not as like a 10 out of 10
Horrific.
trauma.
Yeah.
And it's the person who has the less trauma that becomes more traumatized. The difference is there's nobody safe to process it with, to live it with. They're alone, essentially.
Yeah. We can go through horrifically messy things, but if we've got people around us, we can be okay. We can move through it.
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's, you know, all levels of PTSD and other complications in there, and we're not trying to minimize it. I'm just, are we having to go through our own pain and trauma because we didn't have anyone with us.
Yeah, it's interesting you talking through this and even looking at it from that multi-generational perspective of what happened in years past. And I think there's beauty and pain in all experiences of human life, and it's just changed.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have such a deep awareness of the impact that emotional health has on all aspects of life, from physical health to mental health to community health.
Yeah.
And we actually understand that to a much greater degree now is phenomenal and has opened doors to so much healing and so much connection. On the flip side of that, as we dig into pain and trauma, it can breed a lot of discontent and a lot of bitterness and resentment of the people who may have been a part of causing pain there.
If you get stuck there.
If you get stuck there. And so I say that to say all things that we look at that can be considered good, in quote marks, or bad, may just be down to perspective. It may be actually the way we're looking at things is just, that's how we understand it. But we actually don't have a different perspective to understand it differently. It's like,
so it would be easy to look at maybe the way our grandparents had it and dissect what was easy about it and what was hard about it. You know, they didn't have social media and they just all made their own butter and they had this homestead lifestyle, and forgetting they were up from the crack of dawn till
it was a hard
it was
life.
very, very hard. I talked to my grandma who grew up on a cattle farm, and my goodness, that looked hard. Washing on a, what do you call them, a washboard instead of just pressing a button. She just must, when I say I'm tied to her, she must just roll her eyes, but she's so kind and gracious. But I think we have to come at all of this with an awareness of what we don't know because we don't live there. We're not in it.
Absolutely. And so then we need to apply that same lens to the world that we're living in right now and not look at it as, oh, this is so good. Like we've got this so right. And maybe go, well, actually, maybe we just don't understand all the perspectives of it.
You're talking about the parenting?
Yeah. And so, and I guess coming back to that comment of, well, I chose not to have kids, so I can't tolerate them. It's trying to get back to that. What does community actually look like? Because when the lens is focused on self, you look at kids and go, oh, such an inconvenience.
Why would they need to have a different lens? Why would they need to have tolerance for children?
I mean, if you're looking at it from a purely self-focused perspective, you don't. So why should...
Okay, so I'm not looking at it from a self...
But if you're looking at it from if we're part of the human race...
Because there is a bigger story at play.
Yeah.
When we fall into the trap of this individualization and no community and self-focused, we all lose, including the person who is self-focused. That is not how we were made.
Yeah.
I will fall on that sword because I think it would be easier sometimes. It would be so much easier just not care about anybody else. But you lose so much of what you were made for.
Yeah.
Which this sacrificial love, this grace and kindness, this ability to get through every storm together, this pulling and pushing and relying on people around us while also serving, not to abandonment, not to the nth degree where ourselves don't end or start or end. It's if everybody pulls in together, this gets better.
Yeah.
Like, I think half the problem is people have just lost hope. Their feeds are full of so much pain and negativity and suffering on a scale that we've never had to deal with before. You can see a bomb drop on the other side of the world. And
seconds after it happens.
Correct. Also, on that note, without knowing, not that I think bombs dropping is a good thing, but like never knowing the context. You are fed what they want to feed you.
Yeah.
We know this because we have been in countries watching the news that the country is seeing, and it is completely different to what people back home are seeing.
Yes.
You cannot convince me otherwise.
No.
There is always more to a story.
Yes.
And when we're talking about kids and we're talking about these comments, obviously we're trying to bring it back around, but I think it is part of a bigger conversation. It's not intolerant about children. The bigger issue is what makes us as individuals, why are we as individuals so upset by this?
Yeah.
What brings so much offense to us? Because it's not just kids on a boat. It's every single topic you could possibly think of is someone having not so much a different opinion, because that is life and we want to have different opinions. That's
Absolutely.
how we grow and that's how we communicate, and it's beautiful. But it is with the level of hatred
Yeah.
and anger and
Yep.
disgust.
Yeah.
We reduce people to an idea and they are no longer worthy. They
Or
are
they're
no
no
longer
longer a
human.
person. Yeah. We've lost our shared sense of story.
Yes, and I feel sad just thinking about it.
Oh, man, it grieves me because I know we've lost ourselves in that as well.
Totally.
Like
Yes.
it's so easy to turn inwards and to
But again, I think it is the hopeless story.
Yeah.
Why bother?
why bother? What's the point?
Yeah.
And you've said that to me a few times in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because it can seem like the impact that we're having in the world around us feels so small and insignificant. And I think in light of the grievous horrors that we see so quickly on social media and in the news, everything seems like, well, what's the point?
Totally.
Like, I gave someone a smile today, but what's the big deal in the scheme of things?
That's where we have to go back to.
Yeah.
It has to be in the small, daily, consistent things that we do to love on the people around us.
Yeah.
Even love on ourselves.
And so I guess that comes back to then that if we're so riled up by a different idea or a different opinion about something, can we get curious enough to say, oh, why is that feeling hard?
Yeah. If you're triggering, if you're dysregulating, if you're like, the caveat here is there are events and world events and things that we are called to have a righteous anger about, right? Like, and we
Yes.
are to stand up and
Yeah.
to fight and to believe in these things.
And even then, there is a wisdom in taking a second
Yeah.
to consider your response rather than a pure reaction.
Mm.
Because reactions rarely come out with any sense of dignity for the people involved, any sense of wisdom in where judgment may lie, any sense of like, I might not know all the pieces of this picture here.
Gosh, one of the best phrases we use for each other is, can you help me understand this?
Yeah.
Sitting in a place of humility, even when I completely disagree with what you're saying, can you help me understand where you're coming from?
Yeah.
I want to know. I'm leaning in.
Yeah. Because it instantly opens up that relational connection. That instantly opens up those relational connections again.
Yeah.
And like we do this with our kids as well. Like they'll be flipping out about something or like angry about something, and it's slowing down enough to go, I'm not going to react back to you, but help me understand.
I mean, this ties into our conversation last week about regulation and noticing what's happening in your body. And geez, has this been helpful on social media when I get the mean comments coming through, instead of like, back at them, take a minute. I'm going to go regulate. I'm going to, notice what's happening in my body and come back with curiosity and kindness.
Yeah. And it builds a resilience so that, like this week with these comments around parenting and kids, there's a genuine curiosity, even for the most offensive of comments.
Well, I'm just not getting offended.
Yeah. Well, you're not getting offended. And then it's like, what's happening in your life that feels so challenged by this statement that kids could be an inconvenience, or kids actually could just be allowed in spaces?
There's so many different parenting advice I want to give, and I won't, because I just think that's not super helpful. But
I want to,
a couple of the thoughts I had around it was, I don't think children know how to be in adult spaces.
Yeah.
And that's a huge conversation, because I think they're put into school. Our kids have been in school. They're put into, even at church, they go to kids' church.
Yeah.
They're not, and I get there are appropriate places, and it's, kids can go have fun there instead of sitting around listening to things or whatever. But when we were overseas, for instance, there were a couple of times we decided to go out to a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
It would have been easier not to, especially one of our kids who spills her drink every time. But we're going to learn that you're actually welcome in these spaces.
Yeah.
And if you were in these spaces, you're expected to behave in a certain way.
So for clarity there, we didn't just suddenly spring it on the kids, we're going to a nice restaurant. We said, hey girls, we want to go to a really nice restaurant and eat a really nice meal. So we're going to practice what it looks like to sit at a table and eat with manners, eat really politely and kindly. We're going to bring some things so that you've got, like, if you need to sit and do some drawing for a moment, or sit to
Have a fidget toy
have
or
a
something.
fidget toy or
Yeah, yeah.
something so that you're not jumping up and down and running around like.
It's also realistic. We're not sitting there
Yeah.
for 3 hours.
No.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't cope with
It's
that
a shorter
anyway.
dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then inviting them into that space, and they thrive
Yeah.
when they're actually, well,
Given the chance.
given the chance and expected to come up to a level.
Yeah.
Which I think for all of us, like when we're given the opportunity to step into a new level of responsibility or a new level of like, I can be here.
It's not starting off crazy.
No.
Like here, we're going into this really crazy restaurant without having learnt, good behavior at home or whatever. It's also trusting our kids, believing in them and seeing them as capable.
Absolutely. So I guess the next thing then, as we've traveled culturally, we've seen so many different ways of doing family life. And I think similar in Australia as it was in England and America and Canada, there felt at times a lot of disconnect between kids and parents, or kids and the world around them, the community around them.
Do you mean just in comments and how people would talk?
Yeah.
Even parents about their own children?
Oh, man.
Huge.
It's huge.
Yes.
And then almost a segregation that wanted to happen. So we'll go to the park and the kids will go play over there and that'll be their thing, and the parents will all huddle over here together.
Do you think, though, parents just don't know how to have fun and play?
I think that's a huge part of it. And so that's where I guess it brings me to looking at how family life was done in Greece or in Italy or in Turkey, even in like Thailand and Vietnam at times, seeing these families that were just doing life together.
Yeah.
There were, I mean, the parents were often running a business, and so the kids would be helping out. Or they might be playing in a back room, or they'd be doing something with an auntie or a grandma somewhere.
There's a great book I've just finished reading, Hunt, Gather, Parent. And we already do a lot of what she's talking about, where she actually interviews Inuit and tribes around the world and sees how they do family and how they do life. And it is very similar to what we saw. It's inviting children into our adult lives instead of separating, okay, the kids go and do this over there and the adults do this. So for cooking, I can remember before our kids could even properly talk, you had them at the counter cooking with you. And you also, we had like, I don't even remember you giving them fake knives. Like they had knives from like 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cutting pretty hard things like tomatoes. You have done such a brilliant job of coming alongside the kids and allowing them to come alongside you. And yes, it's slower and it's messier and it requires more patience.
Yeah.
But now Isla will go and just cook a full meal by herself. The girls have such a deep confidence, even in who they are.
Yeah.
They would be shocked to hear and to see other children be like, you don't do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, I've got to say...
Well, can I just say quickly as well? It's even thinking about how we do chores and stuff together. So we don't do...
chore charts.
We don't do chore charts, and the kids don't get money for helping, because we are all a family and that's just expected. We all help together. If they do... maybe we can they actually do some work.
Extra bonus jobs.
Yeah, and some of the social stuff we do, if they're working for that, they get paid, right?
Yeah.
The other thing, I remember Saturday chores and we would all go off separately and do the chores. And I used to hate that. Whereas now we do, all family clean up together, and it's like a half hour. We go together and do the chores.
Yes.
Like there might be 2 of us in the bathroom. It's enjoyable. I actually, I enjoy it because the house gets clean, but it's not, there's no screaming, there's no yelling, there's no frustration.
It's operating as a team.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that, like, as we've done life together more and more, it's the reality that we've come back to again and again of going, no, like we don't want to do individual life.
I mean, sometimes I'm like, can you please all just leave me so I can just have some...
I think absolutely.
It's knowing the boundaries, but
totally.
What that requires then give and take from everybody. It means that when the kids are working and doing their school, mum and dad have to work. And when they're finished, they have to entertain themselves. They've got to find ways to be creative. And they're excellent at that. They don't often say they're bored. They figure out some new creative craft project or, whatever.
Yes.
It's holding it really creates this beautiful worth and a value for every single member of the team.
Yeah.
It's not child-centered. It's not all about what they need, and it's not all about what we need.
Parent-centered, yes.
It's give and take.
Totally. So if I was a parent who right now was struggling to release a lot of control, was maybe just getting frustrated at my kids because it felt like they were just getting in the way and stopping me from being able to do the things that I needed to do, what can I do?
So interesting, because I just think it all comes back to that, what we talked about last episode about the regulation stuff.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to have patient. You're not going to be patient. You're not going to have a lot of compassion for your kids when you're already so overwhelmed and stressed, and then you're like, come help cook in the kitchen, and it'll just be a
Yeah.
nightmare and everyone will be crying and angry. And that's a really frustrating answer.
It is.
Because I mean, I think some things like time limits are helpful. Like, okay, we're going to spend half an hour just doing this together, or starting in pretty low stakes thing. Let's fold the
Yes.
washing together,
Yep.
and let's not freak out when they're not folded properly, and they can go put them in their cupboard. And yes, it's going to be a big mess, but it's not nitpicking, right?
Yes.
But I do, unfortunately and fortunately, I do think so much of it is our own inner work that has to happen.
Yeah.
Because kids will feel it.
Absolutely.
It's even noticing when you start getting just annoyed, taking a few seconds to walk away and take some
Totally.
deep breaths. It could be like, running on the spot. I think breathing's great, but sometimes you got to release that energy else in a different way.
And what's interesting, and I'm hearing in this, is that to take that time, we actually need time. We need space around life. And look, I think one of the things that we're so conscious of, particularly as we're doing more sort of normal life, is not filling our days to the nth degree.
Oh, I feel panicked about how much stuff we have going on right now.
And there's not much.
Well, yeah, we're playing netball and you got church on this day. And it just can fill up so quickly. We are
Exactly.
very, very conscious about what we say yes and what we say no to.
Yes. And look, our kids would probably happily be doing 6 or 7 other activities, and we're not putting it on the table right now because we know that the space is so necessary for us to all be in a calmer state.
Yes. I'm just thinking, like, if the kids are going to school, you got to get up, everyone's out the door before 7:30, and then you get home at 5, and then you're doing the dinner. I think I would just start with, like, it's okay that you're exhausted. Like, it makes a lot of sense. And I imagine there's not a lot of help. I imagine you're doing it on your own, and it is just day after day, and you feel trapped and you're exhausted and you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I think it would start, I don't know, I just have a lot of compassion. This was our story for the longest time until we left. And now we're recreating a different type of life, and there's pros and cons to both. Because I'm looking at that and I'm like, I don't know how you get more space in there. Because I'm not advocating you wake up earlier. I think you need your sleep.
Totally.
Maybe I think it's probably sitting down and looking at where is your time going.
Yes. Yeah. And actually being fairly ruthless with
and
that.
honest about it.
Yeah. Yep. Because we often want to live in denial and blame something else or someone else for why we feel the way we do, when really a lot of the time it comes back to us and only
Yes.
us.
There's a lot of ownership. There are drastic steps we saw and have seen people take of moving to, a different country or an area that's not near a capital city where the rent is a lot cheaper, or owning a house is a ton cheaper, and that gives you more time.
Yes.
And there are sacrifices that need to be made potentially. I think a big belief we now have is there is always an option C.
Yeah.
The depression and anxiety, I think, for a lot of us comes from when we feel backed into a corner and there is no hope.
Totally. And I guess I just wanted to pull in the comment there of the culture we live in is one of continual growth and improvement and striving towards the quote unquote perfect life.
Yeah.
And it's a lie.
What if instead of owning the really expensive house that you've got to pay the mortgage on, you lived somewhere with a rent that's like a lot cheaper?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I also recognize
we want to be around the people that are close to us. And so
I recognize it's not as easy as that, but I'm hopeful that this feels hopeful.
Yeah.
That even the sacrifices that we think we're making, like when we sold the business, that was so devastating to me.
Yeah.
It was crazy. We should not have done that, but you weren't coping any longer. Your mental health was rapidly declining.
It wasn't serving us anymore.
It was not worth the money. It was not worth the prestige.
Yeah.
It was gutting. And there was a big grief process when that happened. choosing to do the opposite of what everyone probably thought was the right thing to do actually opened a different door for us.
Yeah.
And you were really unhappy.
Mm.
And suddenly it shifted into a different,
A new season.
opportunity, a new season. And so, as part of this conversation with the option C, you just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know where it can go.
Yeah.
And you think you're losing a dream, or you think you're like, it is sacrifice, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's exactly what you need.
Totally. And so maybe then it's looking at the people around you and having just that little bit of slowness to go, I wonder what's setting them up to be the way they are right now.
Ooh, we're so in sync, because I was like, that was that other thing I wanted to talk about. This is a bit of an all-over episode.
No, but like it comes back to, like, if I'm going to look at somebody and judge them, I got to look at myself first, which is that delightful Bible verse of like, before you judge the stick in someone else's eye, look at the log in your own.
Yes.
And go, okay, so if I can actually sit with myself and hold that I'm not going to hold things perfectly, and I'm not going to know everything about myself even, how can I look at somebody else and immediately judge them for what they're doing or how they're showing up? How can I come with a little bit of curiosity that might open a conversation, that opens a little bit of kindness to them, that allows them to actually slow down and maybe get a little bit more regulated, to then be able to make what foreseeably could be a slightly better decision?
Well, even regardless of decision making, I'm thinking back through the comment about people judging poor behavior of children. And we were talking about this before. I'm like, you don't know what that family's been through. That child might have a disability, and this is their first time out. And those parents are, like, not first time out, but they've gone out and they're already overstimulated, and the parents are dying inside. And what you see is parents doing nothing.
Yes.
When inside, maybe either they're panicking, they don't know what to do, they're already worried, or like there is many
Totally
examples of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or also, what is this definition of good parenting? Because so many of the comments were talking about
bad parenting is unacceptable.
Yeah, that it's not bad children, it's bad parents. I'm like, what is your definition of being a bad parent when a child seems to be acting out? Because that could be happening from all sorts of reasons. They might have been on different medication, taken something to eat. They might have there might be massive trauma happening at home, and this child is losing it. You just don't know. On the flip side.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side of that is you might have a child who shows up beautifully, like perfectly behaved, shows up in wonderful spaces. And actually they're only doing that because they know that unless they show up perfectly, they're going to get beaten at home.
You just don't know.
No, you don't. And so, what is that definition of bad parenting then? It's
such a judgment towards what you think is good. And I understand what people are saying. They're talking about, children who are out at a restaurant and the kids are throwing food across the table, or they're screaming, or, you hear kids swearing at each other, and all these things that are just terribly overwhelming and not appropriate.
Yeah.
Full stop, whether it's happening at home or.
So how then, if we're in a situation like that, where we can see things either going awry or things that foreseeably look pretty perfect, how as a community can we come around parents and families?
Well, that's what's difficult too, because I think sometimes people have offered to help or have asked and gotten curious, and the mother or the father, whatever's happening, bites back at them. So then people are afraid. So I think collectively this starts to change when we start to change.
100%. And again, it's removing that self-focus and stepping back enough to go, I'm part of a broader community. Regardless of what I think of the community around me, I'm a part of it. We can't help that.
If you're a human, you are part of this.
You're connected to every other human on this planet. And so we get to show up and either just throw stones, or we get to show up in love and care for the people around us. And we're going to do it imperfectly. And the people around us are going to do it really imperfectly.
Well, it's not we're not talking high stakes. We're not talking about massive changes.
Yeah.
I just think it's having a little bit more compassion and a little bit more slowing down a little bit to think that maybe you don't have all the pieces.
Yeah.
To leave you with this story, when I was in a psych hospital, I was in there for a while, and then I lived with your parents for a long time.
Just after we'd had our second
Just
baby.
after it was a postnatal depression, psychosis. And my first outing with the two kids, we went to Coles, the grocery shop. I was so anxious. I was so nervous. I didn't even I was really afraid. We were leaving. I'm borrowing your parents' car because we only had one car or something at the time, and I accidentally nudged with the bull bar another car. But I don't know this because I've got a kid screaming
toddler in the
behind me.
back.
It's a huge car. I'm driving in this undercover car park. I'm trying to figure out the gears. I'm sitting there and I'm sweating. Like I was so anxious and scared. And this woman runs up and starts banging on the door, and she goes off at me, swears her head. I'm trying to and there's all these cars beeping now because I'm not in a car park. I've pulled out. And I just remember I just wish she had known that day what it took for me to get outside after nearly losing my life many, many times during that struggle with postnatal, that it was a miracle that I had made it out. And her car was totally fine, by the way. There was no
Nudged
and in
the
fact
tire on the back of her car.
It was the tire, yes. And in fact, her husband came over and said, "I'm so sorry. There's nothing wrong with the car. Like, you're fine. I'm sorry for my wife," sort of thing. And I'm sure as well she had a story. What made her react the way she did that day? And I can see that now. I just think as a community, as a people, we have to be able to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
So next time you see a parent with kids that are looking like they are just losing the plot, you don't know what they're going through. And even if it's behavior that's completely disgusting to you, all of those people involved are still human.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can we show it with a little bit of kindness? And there's been moments in different countries around the world where we've walked into a grocery store and the checkout lady has just gone, "Hey girls, come here," and immediately giving them lollipops or something else. Or we've walked
Just cherish
into
the kids, don't they?
different restaurants, and we've lost the kids before we know what's going on because one of the waiters has taken them off, and it's excited
That
and
sounds
genuinely
super dangerous. It wasn't, I promise.
No, but it's kind of how can we embrace kids in a way which helps them feel seen and known just as much as we as adults want to be seen and known, to create an environment that we can all enjoy.
And to be clear, we're not talking about children who run over us and have do whatever they want. Inevitably, when children are seen and known and you have the relationship with them, that the behavior shifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, no one gets it perfect. Our kids aren't perfect. I'm just saying that we don't want to come off too soft with language either. I don't think we're gentle parents. We're not, all the emotion in the house matters and whatever you feel you need to express. No, we have very clear boundaries and very clear understanding and a culture of honor and respect in this house.
You can be angry, but you can't speak disrespectfully.
Yeah, or, we show them a different way to get that anger out, punching a pillow or somatic release and that sort of stuff. But it's so frustrating because it's never long enough, these conversations. But
and we probably put our foot in about 7 different issues right now,
we?
which no, but the reality is as we have these conversations, we're finding a shared sense of language around these issues.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest thing that we want to come back to is we want as humans to be able to do life together, in a way that brings life, in a way that actually just shares kindness and a little bit more love, because there's plenty of crap in the world and plenty of judgment that's going to put us all into a hole if we keep staying there.
Which also goes hand in hand with this, let us focus on the good things.
Yeah.
Let us draw our attention. What's that viral thing happening at the moment? When you start to notice the good things around you, more good things happen because you just notice more things.
Yeah. And you start to then expect more good things.
There is so much hope.
There really is. And I think we've seen that. If we look at kids as our future hope, they are really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's really fun. And we've met lots of kids who are showing up really messy, and we've met lots of kids who are just profoundly impactful.
Yeah, very cool kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this has touched anything that's brought up a lot of emotion, please make sure you reach out to someone and get the help you need.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your comments as well, because this is a conversation that it feels like a start to a conversation in many ways.
So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.